Activate release sequencer. On my mark. 5.
We're on express elevator to hell. Going down.
2. 1. Mark.
Hello, everyone. My name is Mark, a.k.a. Derringer. Today is Sunday, May 31st, and you are listening to episode 263 of the Instant Action Podcast, your weekly source for planet-side news and information. As always, I'm brought to you by great listeners like you via the Support the Show tab on instantactionpodcast.com. So what's been going on with me? It's pretty much status quo. Been watching the latest U.S. news with a little bit of trepidation about all the rioting that's been going on and things like that, and the fact that we seem to be turning into a police state and stuff like that. You guys know me, I don't make this podcast political whatsoever, except for saying, vote. Other than that, I kind of stay away from those other political type topics, but we're in an interesting world right now, at least in the U.S. I can't speak towards European countries, Australia, and things like that. Everybody else who plays PlanetSide 2, I can't speak towards your countries, but certainly in the U.S., it's very interesting days right now, being kind of on the sidelines watching everything that's going on. I mean, I've told you guys many times I live in Massachusetts. We're pretty status quo here. The boat doesn't get too rocked as far as stuff going on. I see all these protests and stuff like that, and they're going on much different places of the country, other than my little corner of Massachusetts. So I just want to say to my listeners, if any of you are involved in any of this stuff, or this is ground zero for you, just stay safe. That's all I'm going to say for that. So what's in store for this week's show? Well, first I want to talk about the dev live stream that happened last Friday, which included some teasers for the next game update as well. And then after that, I'm going to spend probably the remainder of the show talking about the PTS update that was also released this last Friday. This has everything for the next game update, Colossus, etc., Punisher, etc., as well as a lot of other changes that I didn't see coming, and I don't think a lot of us saw it coming. So strap in as we hot drop into another episode of the Instant Action Podcast. So like I said, first up this week was the May 29th dev livestream. The May 29th was a very busy day over at Rogue Planet Games, but they did do their live stream, and honestly, it was a pretty quick turnaround from the last dev live stream because they'd done one in exactly a month prior. April 29th was the previous dev live stream. So good to see them committing to doing more dev live streams. I know the community really enjoys them. And it's a good way for them, like I said in the past, to interact with everybody who is curious about where everything's going with the game. So they started off by showing off the return of the War Correspondent. If you guys remember, any longtime players, Robert Stoneman used to do a War Correspondent series about PlanetSide 2, and we're talking way, way back in the day. I think the most recent one that had been done was probably with the introduction of the Valkyrie, so that can certainly tell you how long ago we've had a Robert Stoneman video, but they released a brand new one, a premiere, if you will, on this dev live stream, and it focused on the Bastion and stuff like that, and it was in the vein of all the previous ones. Really well done, really well executed, and looked really good, and hopefully we'll see something like this as an ongoing series every time that they do some sort of big game update. So I would certainly imagine that once the next game update goes live with the Colossus in it, that we'll get another Robert Stoneman video. And again, they're very well done. If you missed it, I'll include a link. It's out there on YouTube, so you can go watch it and check it out yourself. They also talked about outfit wars and how The last one went pretty well overall, and they have one more alpha cycle planned. So there's alpha cycle 3 that will most likely be happening. Well, obviously it's going to be happening in June because today's May 31st and they haven't announced another one. So definitely expect another one to be coming in June itself, and it should be the last alpha cycle before they go into a standardized time frame for when the outfit wars actually go on. They do want to have some more organized playtests with some outfits though, so that they can test stuff on the back end, because they were a little unhappy that some bugs still made it through into outfit wars this time around. And they also said that just know that they're probably going to be a month break in between this last one and the first official one to give them some time to actually fix some other things. And Rel did say they are still thinking about bracketing out large outfits for future outfit wars. I can't imagine that that's going to happen with this last alpha test one, but maybe that'll be the case. I would love to see them get that into the alpha cycle, a bracket out for the super large outfits. And then the last thing that he mentioned was they were looking to maybe restructure the finishing of Outfit Wars so that there could be some sort of end of season final war based on the top scoring outfits within the Outfit Wars themselves. So I think that would be pretty cool. Obviously, we have 5 live servers right now and 15 matches total, 5 times 3, 15. So certainly there could be, they're looking to potentially take all the highest placing outfits, the ones that score the most points fastest, maybe have the largest point differential between first and second place. Those all meet in a final end of season war to give a season winner, which certainly would be a cool thing. And I think then you'd actually see the best of the best competing in an Ultimate Outfit Wars finale. It would be a little difficult deciding who gets to play what faction, because let's say, a couple factions win on the same, or let's take this last Outfit Wars as an example. NC New Conglomerate won the majority of the Outfit Wars matches. It would be tough to force some non-NC outfit to play, or force an NC outfit to play, a faction that they're not as familiar with and do as well. So I wonder what type of limitation there could be or way to get around something like that. Obviously, I think they'd just say, somebody play a different faction and somebody would agree to do that. But it could be interesting. I welcome that. I would love to see a final winner crowned for each cycle of Outfit Wars. That would be really cool, in addition to, obviously winning your gold, silver, and bronze matches. After the Outfit Wars stuff, they talked about the NS66 Punisher again. So they added some additional changes to it. They changed the default underbarrel to be a fragmentation grenade launcher. And then they changed some of the other individual class-specific ones. So now the heavy assault is being given a Havoc underbarrel that prevents vehicles from repairing, which is actually a pretty cool one. The Infiltrator's EMP, they removed the shield effect from that, so it's no longer going to drain shields. The Medic underbarrel is being given a cleanse feature, which is going to take away any debuffs. So think, for example, if you're on fire from a thumper, if the medic uses their underbarrel, they should get rid of the fire effect from the thumper, which is actually kind of neat. The engineer's one has been changed so that it will now increase the maximum health for mechanical targets and will also repair over time. So think engineers popping that onto their turrets and things like that. Not bad changes, honestly. I really like the heavy assault one. That's clearly thinking outside the box. And I'm still pretty psyched with all the different options that you can get underneath as the underbarrel for the Punisher itself. In addition to the Punisher, they talked about the special edition of the Thumper that is also going to be released in this update. It has, the different coloring on it. And more importantly, it's going to contribute to the progress of the exceptional 3 directive line. I know we need more of those things within the game itself. Then they went and talked about the auxiliary Spitfire, because obviously that's still a problem within the game itself. And Rel said that they are removing the auxiliary Spitfire altogether, and instead it's being replaced with something called an ordnance dampener, which buffs nearby players, giving them rank 1 flak armor instead. And that's obviously to help in assisting in different point holding situations. Well, how do I say this properly? Obviously, you guys know me. I'm an engineer main, and I use my turrets a lot. And yes, I can agree that there are too many Spitfire turrets within the game itself, but replacing them with an ordnance dampener, I don't know. I mean, it's cool, but I don't see it as useful as the auxiliary Spitfire turret was. So I don't know. I'm certainly hoping that they're going to be refunding everybody who spent money on, or not money, but who spent merit on the auxiliary Spitfire turret, because I don't know that I'm going to pick up the ordnance dampener instead. So there is that. And even I wouldn't mind if they left the auxiliary Spitfire for engineers only. Again, maybe that's just me speaking with my engineer mind, but I don't know. I'm not as excited about the ordnance dampener as compared to the auxiliary Spitfire turret. So, well, after that announcement, though, they did talk more about facility modules, and basically all the old facility benefits are going to get rolled into the modules themselves. They're going to be able to be crafted and placed in regions similar to war assets are right now. They're going to buff everything in the region depending on its type. If you hover your mouse over a region while you're on the map, you can see which buffs are currently there, and depending on your rank within your outfit and ability, you'll be able to extend buffs further than they are. Also note that tech plants are no longer going to be required for main battle tanks, because now there's modules that are going to be able to create the same sort of buff out there. And obviously each of the modules will display which outfit is providing that benefit to all players inside that region. I'm excited for facility modules. I think it's a good addition to war assets, and I'm curious to see how this is going to go. Hopefully it won't be exploited beyond belief, but again, we'll have to play with it on PTS and live to really see. Next, they talked about the Colossus. They showed it off, a little video of it in game. They changed the model a little bit. You're able to deploy it now as well. You can use merit to customize it. So note, like I said, merit is used to customize it. You're not going to be spending certs on the Colossus, because obviously it's outfit related, and this is going to prevent new players from spending certs on it who aren't in an outfit and therefore can't pull a Colossus. Note that they're making the Colossus only spawnable at either tech plants or warp gates, and this is going to make sure that tech plants remain relevant after the MBT module is released into the game itself. When you deploy it, obviously you'll be able to have reticles appear on the Bastion fleet carrier, so you can see where the weak points of it are. And also note that what I forgot talking about last show about the Colossus is that the weapon itself is able to pass through vehicles, which means it's able to pass through the Bastion. And there was a lot of talk about the Colossus only being able to hit the underside of the Bastion. Obviously, since it's able to pass through, it's going to be able to hit the weak points on top of the bastions themselves also. Something that I forgot, and something that clearly was shown off on the live stream itself. Also, the Colossus has a cordium-powered shield, so which means you're going to be able to bring ants to it and resupply it and stuff like that. And pretty interesting stuff. It's out there on PTS right now, and I'll talk about that a little bit later on this week's show. But certainly, if you're curious about the Colossus, now you can go and actually test it out. From there, they talked about PS4 updates, because obviously PS4 is still being worked on in the background. The new programmer is on board, and Andy said he's been making good progress porting Escalation over to the PS4. They're also talking about moving the field of view slider to the PS4. And basically, we can expect a release in the next month or two. Most features should be completed in the next 3 weeks, and then they'll start internal testing. And obviously, Andy said that, things could change as stuff is implemented. Who knows? They obviously don't know what's going to happen, but that's their hope, that features should be implemented in the next 3 weeks, and then testing is going to be happening internally, and they'll go from there. He did state that the next dev live stream should have a lot more information about the PS4. Then they had some other miscellaneous stuff and bug fixes and things like that. But after that, they've showed off what's happening in the next game update. So most likely this is going to be our July game update. They showed off some work in progress stuff, which includes the mission system. Obviously, the mission system in its current state within the game itself is very lackluster, and there's not a lot of reason to do anything within the mission system itself. So they're bringing campaigns, missions, directives, and all kinds of stuff in the rebranded mandate system as the mission system itself. There'll be daily challenges. There'll be full campaigns. There's going to be a lot of storytelling and lore within the game itself revealed as part of this. They say that they've hired a writer to work on some of the lore within the game itself, because building out the world is a key goal. Some of these missions are going to be a lot harder and more intense, are going to take longer to complete. Some could be much more relaxing, have a much lower intensity to them. But there's combat missions, fighting at specific bases, reviving people, all the various stuff that you see within directives currently, but built into a more fleshed out mission system. The screens look really cool. They're very, minimalistic, which I don't mind at all. But you can certainly see that there's a lot of different things to do within the mission system that they're working on behind the scenes. Again, we really only got a small tease regarding this and just some of the screens for it, but it looks like the mission system could be a reason to bring people into the game every day and continually playing with something to strive for, on top of just the regular directives themselves of killing X-players and stuff like that. And I think a lot of people excited about the lore of PlanetSide 2 will be looking forward to the mission system itself. And that pretty much wrapped up the live stream. They did announce the in-game tribute to Mentis, who passed killing 1 million players, and someone has already found that within game and shown it. It's there's a TSAR sniper rifle sitting against a tree in some far-flung corner of the map, and you can interact with it, and it's a pretty cool little thank you towards him for doing what he did within the game itself. And it also brought to light that Rel had renamed the weapon into the Maelstrom after Maelstrom, who does the PS Alerts website. And then, of course, Maelstrom came out and said he had no idea that had been done. So just another implementation of the devs really, giving some sort of recognition to community members who do stuff within the game itself. Obviously, I've been immortalized within this game itself, or memorialized within the game itself, with the NS357 IA pistol. And, they do stuff like that for people in the community who have put their mark on the community itself. And, I can speak for all of those people who've been memorialized, that we really appreciate little things like that within the game itself. But maybe it's time for the NS357 IA to get a buff. Okay, there, I said it. With that, let's wrap up this first topic and move on to second this week, about the PTS update itself, because there's a lot of stuff in it. So, like I said, shortly after the dev live stream, the PTS was also unlocked and updated with the testing for the next game update. So, some new things to note on the test server: that you can now earn merit while you are offline. And that's obviously to allow testing of new items, specifically the Colossus tank, which has, its stuff being built off by merit. They do plan to offer ways to get A7 and outfit loyalty on PTS in a later update, so certainly watch for that. But obviously the biggest thing within the PTS update itself is the Colossus tank. It is now available for testing. It can be pulled for free in the VR training room. And you can also build it as a war asset to deploy in combat zones. But as always, you should note it is still undergoing tuning. So please provide feedback regarding it. Obviously, we know it's a massive multi-crew combat platform. And it is being pulled at either the tech plant or the warp gate, which both have special terminals to pull the Colossus tank. It obviously has room for a pilot who also uses the main cannon, and there are also 4 additional gunner seats for turrets stationed around the 4 corners of the vehicle itself, and you can customize your own Colossus and equip it with different support weapons and equipment, as I said before, using merit within the game itself. In its deployed mode, this is the Skylance mode. It turns into a Skylance battery, which can destroy the Bastion's weak points from the ground. While in Skylance mode, there is a restricted viewing angle, and it also fires a charged particle cannon that can pierce through multiple vehicles at once. And again, this is how it's going to be able to hit the weak points on the top of the Bastion fleet carrier. While it's deployed, the main cannon gunner also receives targeting reticles that show the position of those weak points if they are in range of the Colossus. Now, due to the power of the Skylance, every time that the weapon fires, it causes damage to the Colossus, which will require allies to repair it. Also, while it is deployed, it does have a cordium-powered shield bubble that remains active, which will also block incoming projectiles and is resistant to bombardments from Bastion's Mauler cannons. And note that ants can recharge that shield by depositing cordium into it. So there you go. There's everything regarding the Colossus. It is out there on PTS. The devs want you to test it. The devs want you to provide feedback regarding it. Moving along, though, because it's not just the Colossus that was added here, they added some outfit updates to the game. First one is the outfit logs. There is now a log page that outfits have access to, which shows all the notable events, like when you recruited a member, when you crafted, or when you used a war asset, and also anytime a base is captured for the outfit itself. Again, it's just a nice log. I think it's really important because obviously it shows off who crafts and who uses war assets. So if somebody's using a few too many of them, or if somebody's orbital striking a little too much, you can certainly clamp down on that. They also added the facility modules out there on PTS right now. Obviously, these are a new type of war assets. Note, though, that you will not be able to provide the region-wide vehicle discounts, enhance base turrets, or provide infantry health regen in a region, or enable tech-based vehicles. That should be coming in. You will now be able to provide those different things. And again, any previously existed benefits have been rolled into that new feature itself. So again, if you want to add those things like region-wide vehicle discounts, etc., you're going to need to craft that as a war asset. Next, moving on to the Bastion fleet carrier. So the weak points went from 15,000 health and 5,000 shield to 17,500 health and 2,500 shield. So you'll note that it has much less shields attached to it. They also made the recharge cooldown from 12 seconds to increased to 20 seconds. So you'll see it takes longer for the shields to actually recharge. And the dev note on that is that it should make the Bastion a little more susceptible to chip damage coming from a bunch of different sources, rather than it taking much longer to beat through that shield. So again, you'll notice the amount that they took away, they added it to the overall health to the weak point itself. So the weak points are a little stronger health-wise, but they're easier to break through the shields themselves. Moving away from that, next, the merit deployables. Obviously, I talked about it. The Aux Spitfire has been replaced with the Ordnance Dampener. When you're near a deployed Ordnance Dampener, all Allied receive rank 1 flak armor, and Allied max units receive rank 1 ordnance armor. So it's interesting to note that. Also, the Flash XS1 uses a schematic like other merit items and can now be restocked from the loadout screen. Moving on to infantry updates. First, we got some new weapons to talk about. The Punisher is now available out there on the PTS. We've already talked about this ad nauseum. You've got a whole bunch of different class underbarrel archetypes. The EMP for the Infiltrator destroys deployables and scrambles your HUD. Remember, they took away the shield reduction. The Light Assault's Impulse Grenade knocks people back on impact. The Engineer's Enhancement Grenade gives mechanical targets an increased maximum health and repair over time. The Heavy Assault's Havoc Grenade renders mechanical targets immune to repair for a short period of time. And the Combat Medic's Cleanse Grenade has a heal over time effect and will remove slow, blind concussion effects from people. Next, they also added the special edition of the Thumper to the game. It does come equipped with an anti-infantry fragmentation payload, but does also have access to other specialized munitions. And like I said, it contributes to progress of the exceptional 3 directive line within the game itself. Next, they've added some adjustments to various weapons, starting with the NS-30 Tranquility. That's the one you can get on the black market. It is now a battle rifle instead of a scout rifle. They also changed the direct damage from 280 at 75 meters to 250 at 150 to 280 at 15 meters and 225 at 150 meters. And now the slow on hit no longer stacks with other Tranquility users or with concussion grenades. So what the dev note for this is that the changes affect the weapon's effectiveness at long range so that it's not competing directly with semi-auto sniper rifles. Next, the NSX Tonto had its hipfire cone of bloom reduced from 0.24 to 0.12. They felt that the excessive penalty originally meant to offset its higher than normal starting accuracy, but they peeled that penalty back a little bit as it has enough counterbalance elsewhere, they feel. Next, the NSX Daimyo. It appears as a sniper rifle instead of a scout rifle in the marketplace. They increased its maximum damage from 225 to 325. They increased its minimum damage from 175 to 250. But they reduced its headshot multiplier from 5x to 3.5x. So what they're doing is they're reducing the extremes between body shots and headshots. So the reliance on the Daimyo's unique headshot multiplier is lessened, although it will remain capable of a 3 body shot kill at maximum damage range. Next, the Hunter QCX, this is the crossbow within the game itself, had a lot of changes to it. So first, the explosive bolt's direct damage was changed from a resist type that's no longer in the game to the 34, which is the infantry rocket launcher resist type. They also reduced its damage from 450 to 300. They reduced its indirect minimum damage increased that from 10 to 50. They changed its indirect minimum radius from 0.35 to 0.5. and they made it so the bolts no longer lose damage over distance. So they felt the unnaturally high damage against certain targets was not good, so they brought it more in line with the weapon's intended function. And then on top of that, they replaced the explosive bolt's hip fire cone of fire penalty with a smaller magazine size penalty instead. So they reduced the magazine by 1. Then they made some other changes. So the detect bolts, they reduced the number you can have in the field at any time. You used to be able to have 20 of them out. Now you're only able to have 4. And then finally, they replaced the smoke bolts with incendiary bolts, which ignite enemy infantry, just like the Thumper does. And really, because they felt that the spammability of smoke was too much, so they removed it so that you'll use some alternative smoke options within the game itself. Next, they made some changes to the underbarrel smoke attachment. Ammo restocking was increased from 4 seconds to 5 seconds. They felt that a lot of other weapons already share this reload time already, but made parity on those other ones and forgot to do it on the underbarrel smoke launcher. Next, the recon detection device. They've reduced the minimum active darts on this one from 20 to 6. So you used to be able to have a lot of those out too, and a lot less now. Firing while aiming down sights will no longer reveal your minimap location while using it. And recon darts should no longer lift vehicles into the air when placed in their springs. That's an old one, but interesting that they're able to finally fix that one. Moving on, Infradyne, which is the black market consumable. They've increased the duration on this one from 20 seconds to 30 seconds, but at the same time, they've also increased the nanite cost from 3 up to 25. Next, concussion grenades. The turning speed reduction will no longer stack because at times that could cause inverted movement controls on players. So note that with concussion grenades, and I also mentioned earlier that it also doesn't stack with the Tranquility's bolts, so remember that one. The Revenant implant had its rank 5 benefit change so that if you revive an allied player, they will now be cloaked. The failsafe implant had its cooldown change from 20 seconds to 12 seconds at all ranks. The Survivalist implant had its change from rank 5, no longer offers a reload speed increase. And the rank 5 now heals the player for 150 health over 6 seconds when your shield is broken instead. And the sprint speed buff will now be stripped when damage is taken. So note those changes if you're using the Survivalist implant. And then after that, they had a bunch of miscellaneous changes, fixes, and additions. I think the most important here are, first, that they made some adjustments to the heavy assault shield visuals in first person that addresses a major loss in frame rate when aiming down sights. And this one, they said it was something like they knocked it down from a 60% frame rate loss down to a 5%, something huge. So hopefully that will be a big change within the game itself. They fixed it so placing a construction object will once again show its placement sockets. Construction shields should once again block enemy vehicles, even though I know someone has already pointed out that you can drive through the actual construction thing itself, not so much the shield, and they'll be fixing that. Tech plant gates once again go down when both generators are destroyed, and other various crash fixes and stability improvements were made. In addition to that, Esamir, the ISA tech plant, Empire Strength, the value of that was reduced from 25 to 20. They gave relic bases full names now on Desolation, which I think is good. They added a Daredevil chassis option to the black market for harassers and flash drivers. And this one seems that it improves airborne speed and roll. Seems like it's only good if you flip your harasser a lot, that you'll be able to unflip it. All black market weapons now use A7 for attachments, which I think is good. They made some changes to experience for base capture score. So healing experience and capture point pulse experience both no longer contribute to base capture score. So just be aware of that. They changed the Citadel Shield's generator health. It used to be 6,000. It's now 10,000. Also, the Citadel Shield can no longer have objects deployed on top of it. In addition to that, there were probably like 20 or 30 other miscellaneous changes, fixes, and additions. I will include a link to the notes so you guys can check out some of those other ones yourself if you're very curious about them. But there you go. That's everything that's out there on PTS right now. And as always, the devs want your feedback regarding it, especially the Colossus tank, if you're going to get that in-game sooner rather than later. But with that, let's wrap up this week's show and move on to housekeeping.
Hello, housekeeping. Hello. Perfect. Sorry, bro.
So I did get one email this week, and it was from Arai. If you guys remember, I talked about his Reddit post on last week's show, and he wrote, "Hi, Derringer. I briefly wanted to reflect on last week's show where you covered my feedback post. I was certainly surprised about the resonance it received. I appreciated the civil discussion that many offered, much of which certainty made me reconsider certain aspects. I especially noted Sirius's video regarding hype cycles and the need for games to remain attractive and fresh. You did a great job of summarizing the essentials. For my part, I think it's mostly about offering a perspective and sharing some of the experiences or frustrations with the ultimate aim of helping the game become as good as it can be. That being said, I want to emphasize that the devs at RPG are doing fantastic work, and that while the discussion on Reddit or forums often focuses on shortcoming, frustration, or ideas, we often neglect to give positive feedback and acknowledge the many amazing things that are happening, and that player feedback is often taken into consideration. The devs are doing great work that certainly deserves more praise." With that, I'll segue to the latest dev stream, which I'm sure you'll cover in this week's show. I like the notion of having the War Correspondent summarize patches, and the video could be seen as instructional to players at the same time. Many of the changes are already good adjustments that will impact Bastions directly or indirectly, or the meta in general. The PTS patch notes are interesting, and I'm certainly looking forward to head to the PTS to test things. In closing, PS, are you participating in the Community Smash? I will be fighting alongside B-Way for the VS. So, I thank you for that email. I think I said it last week on Reddit as well. It was a slow week, but I still thought that your post was worth talking about. And I do still think that a lot of times this podcast is focused a lot on just the positive side of the game, and I don't spend a lot of time talking about the negative side of the game, but I like to cover all sides and all aspects about it. So I appreciate what you wrote and felt that it was important to talk about. And I agree. Like you said, there was a lot of good feedback back and forth, both positive and negative regarding it. I do agree that the devs definitely need to hear that positive feedback and how people are excited about what's going on within the game itself. And you're right, I did cover everything in the dev live stream, so I'm not going to rehash it on this point, but I do agree that the Stoneman stuff is pretty good. As for your PS, I have not signed up for Community Smash, and the reason being is that it's not a great time for me. I mean, it's in the middle of the day, and I don't know about you, but right now with me, the weather is beautiful outside, and if I was to sit in the basement for a few hours and play games, I think my wife would be upset with all the outside work that could be getting done. So that's really the reason I haven't signed up for it. That doesn't mean I won't sign up on at the last minute. You know, maybe I will jump in and join in on that. I don't know. I haven't made up my final decision about it yet. But as it stands right now, I'm not currently signed up for Community Smash. All right. Regardless, I appreciate the email, Arai. All right, that's going to be it for this week's show. But as always, how can you get in touch with me or the show itself? Well, first, you can visit my website, www.instantactionpodcast.com. You can email me like Arai did at instantactionshow@gmail.com. As you can see, I do read all emails and respond to them on the show. And you can also follow the show on Twitter at InstActPodcast. But as always, in closing, if you've enjoyed the show, please leave me a review on your podcast listening avenue of choice, whether it's iTunes, Stitcher, Google Play, or anywhere else. Also, feel free to tell your friends and outfit mates about the show. But finally, thanks for listening, and keep spamming that Join Combat, formerly known as Instant Action button. Derringer out.